DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan here from DocTalk. Thanks for joining us today. Our guest will be Dr. Mike Sanderson, who's a professor of epidemiology and beef cattle production. We're going to talk about a disease that continues to surface to the top as being issues in beef and dairy herds and potentially at the food chain, Johne's. Johne's disease in beef cattle. Thanks for joining us. More after the break.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the soybean checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansans have a new choice for Medicare supplement insurance plans. With Medicare supplement insurance plans from Kansas Farm Bureau, you have access to 4 levels of coverage, affordable rates, and service from an organization that's served Kansans for more than 100 years. For more information on Kansas Farm Bureau Medicare supplement plans, including rates and to apply, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about umbrella coverage. Did you know that if your cattle get out, you could be held liable for that? Call me. Let's have a discussion. 316-945-6733.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against horn fly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, this is Dr. Mike Sanderson, who is a professor here in the Department of Diagnostic Medicine and Pathobiology at Kansas State University, where he is a professor of epidemiology and beef cattle production medicine. And Mike, we're here to talk about Johne's, and you've done some research on Johne's in the past, or at least done some survey work with Johne's, and you've seen some herds with Johne's as well as a practitioner. Let's just get into what is Johne's and kind of talk us through what it does.
Yeah, I think it is an important disease, Dan, and it's caused by a bacterium with a long name. It's Mycobacterium avium paratuberculosis, but for short we call it MAP. And that causes Johne's disease. And in cattle, it causes a chronic diarrhea in adult animals that the animals appear to be still healthy, except that they lose weight, they have very fluid diarrhea, and eventually then go downhill until they die or they're culled out of the herd. One of the interesting things about it is, though, that the calves are who is at risk and who gets infected. Almost always they're infected when they're less than a year of age, but they don't show any signs until they're 3 to 4 years of age.
Cool. So this is something that is a chronic illness. It's not something that's a real acute, but it's not going to show up clinically until generally after they've had their first calf. The heifers have had their first calf, or when they reach that 3 to 4 years of age.
Right, that's true.
So with the long name, and that, what are of MAP? Thanks for shortening that up for us. But let's talk a little bit about just kind of is it a highly infectious agent? Is it when do calves become infected with it?
Yeah, so the younger the calf, the higher the risk. So when they're very first born is when the risk is the highest, and it is fairly infectious. At that early stage of life, they're highly at risk, and that's also right around calving. We've got, in dairy herds, the calving area is very important, and the calf can get inoculated right then if we're not careful. In beef herds, clean udders and that sort of thing are very important to prevent transmission. So yeah, it's fairly easily transmitted, and especially when they're quite young in life.
Okay, and then the disease in mature animals when they get it is extremely debilitating.
Absolutely, they will just really go downhill and get very, very thin, eventually die if you don't cull them.
And so we'll start to see the diarrhea in those animals, in those more mature animals, followed by extreme weight loss because they just don't digest the nutrients.
Right, their gut just gets completely, it gets very thickened, and it just doesn't digest anything very well anymore, so everything pretty much just runs straight through, comes out the back like a garden hose.
Yeah, and actually they have that sewer pipe gut, and they can't digest. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to jump into some of the herd level problems, or some of the herd level issues that we see with Johne's disease and what it can do reproductively, what it can do production-wise. This is Dr. Mike Sanderson. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. Thanks for watching DocTalk from Kansas State University. More right after the break. Hey folks, welcome to our Cattle First Minute. I'm Dr. Dan here, and thanks to Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica for sponsoring this. When we think about vaccination and vaccinating calves in the fall, or vaccinating your cows in the fall, or summer or spring, it doesn't matter what time of year, we've got to treat vaccines responsibly, because if you don't, that modified live vaccine becomes a modified dead vaccine. We want to make sure we keep it out of the sunlight. We want to make sure that we keep it cool. We want to make sure that you don't mix up more vaccine that you're going to utilize than what you would utilize in an hour, and when you do, make sure you put it in that cooler that keeps it dark and keeps it cool. All of these things, understanding that the syringes have to be clean so that these products work well. Putting a vaccine that is not efficacious into an animal means you vaccinate the animal but you don't immunize the animal. And understanding that there's a difference between immunization and vaccination is important for Cattle First.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Kansans have a new choice for Medicare supplement insurance plans. With Medicare supplement insurance plans from Kansas Farm Bureau, you have access to 4 levels of coverage, affordable rates, and service from an organization that served Kansans for more than 100 years. For more information on Kansas Farm Bureau Medicare supplement plans, including rates and to apply, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Mike Sanderson, who is a professor of epidemiology and beef production in the Department of Diagnostic Medicine and Pathobiology at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Sanderson does research, he does outreach, he does teaching, many different hats that he wears. Tickled to death to have you here. Talk about Johne's and kind of on a herd level what we're looking at.
Johne's definitely is a herd level disease. There isn't any treatment or cure for individual animals, and so it's much best managed at the herd level. So if we want to, we want to control the risk that we'd introduce it to the herd, and then if it is in the herd, we want to control and eventually eradicate it. One of the first things maybe to think about is how common is it? And so if we look at surveys that are done in beef herds, it looks like about 8% or 8 out of 100 beef herds probably have Johne's in the herd. If you go to dairies, it's probably close to 2 out of 3.
Wow.
About 68% is the estimate for dairy herds. So it's fairly common in dairies, not so common in beef, but in both cases it can be fairly debilitating. For dairy herds that have a high level of Johne's in the herd, may cost something on the order of $200 a cow per year in lost milk, in decreased reproductive rates, and those sort of things. In beef herds it's probably lower, but it still does cause some economic impact in terms of decreased milk production and then decreased weaning weights and those sort of things.
Sure, it's got to have an impact on the calf crop when the cow's not able to digest the nutrients the way that she's supposed to, and then partition the energy towards lactation. When we start to look at some of these in beef and dairy and the herd level, is there a difference then in the way that we approach these? I mean, I'm going to make the assumption that the dairy industry is more attuned to testing and looking for this disease than what we are in the beef industry.
They are, and probably appropriately so, since they have more. In either case, I think it's a disease that you really want to talk to your veterinarian and make a detailed plan about how you're going to deal with it. Because you can waste a lot of money doing things that don't really work all that well. So any testing plan and eradication plan needs to be very well thought out, or it'll just spend money and not achieve your goals. And
there is a national Johne's program, correct?
There's a national voluntary Johne's eradication program, yes.
Voluntary?
Yes, it's voluntary in that you don't have to be involved. There is no federal support in terms of money for it. There was for a while, and then tight budget times brought that to an end. So there's no federal support, but there is some guidance in what's a good way to approach eradicating it.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that after a bit. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about prevention of how we prevent it from coming into the herd, and then we'll talk in the last segment about how to eradicate it.
Great.
Folks, thanks for watching DocTalk. More with Dr. Mike Sanderson from Kansas State University right here after these messages. Thanks for watching DocTalk. See you in a minute.
For a few weeks each year, historic Lecompton turns into a living Christmas village as dozens of volunteers, thousands of ornaments, and hundreds of trees come together to transform the territorial Capitol Museum into a Christmas postcard. The spirit of Christmas engulfs the town and all who visit.
Merry Christmas from historic Lecompton.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@SureCropFertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we're glad to answer and work with you.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families and rural Kansas for more than 100 years, and we're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau health plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson and Dr. Mike Sanderson from Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Sanderson is a professor of epidemiology and beef production. And we're talking about Johne's disease, and we're going to jump into prevention because that's really the key for any disease or any injury is let's prevent them from happening. So what is the key to preventing Johne's from entering my herd?
I think the most important thing, Dan, if you can, this is actually difficult, but is to import from herds that are negative. Of course, you have to have some basis for why you think that herd's negative, and probably the best is that the herd you're importing from is involved in that voluntary eradication program. So if they are, then they have tested their herd, and you have some assurance that there's not Johne's in that herd. That is by far the most effective way to keep from importing it into your herd. So seed stock producers, you'd like them to have tested their herds. Dairy replacement heifers, if at all possible, you'd like those to have originated from a test negative herd.
Absolutely. So I think it could increase value for people that are looking for value adds in their bull sales or
Absolutely.
Value adds in their replacement heifer sales is getting that eradication or that Johne's free status on your herd, or at least the test status
right.
on your herd.
Yes.
And with a lot of other diseases, we talk about if you buy an animal, to quarantine and test it or quarantine it doesn't necessarily work for Johne's.
Now, because of some things about Johne's disease and how the disease acts, the test is not very good at identifying individuals that are infected. It's pretty good at the herd level, identifying herds, but not individuals. So testing animals as you bring them into the herd and even quarantining them is not very effective at preventing it from being in the herd. And quarantine because they may not break with the disease in a way that you could see for 2 or 3 years.
Because it's an intermittent shedding, intermittent disease.
Right, and then they're only clinical when they're 3, 4 years old.
Yeah, and so I think it's just as important to know things that don't work as it is to know
right.
the things that do, because you can go through a lot of time, money, and effort in quarantining for Johne's, and it's
right.
not going to make any difference.
No, it won't help.
The other biosecurity tool that people talk about a lot is vaccination.
Right.
And so you said there is a vaccine?
There is a vaccine for Johne's, but because it's a similar bug to the bug that causes TB in cattle, this is not a risk for humans in terms of tuberculosis, but it's similar, and so the vaccine will interfere with TB testing. So you have to have permission from your state animal health officer to be able to do the Johne's vaccine. It's probably helpful, at least in some cases, in really high herds that have a very high number of positive cows. But generally we don't use it much.
So it'd be more of a tool that we would utilize in eradication than probably what we would use in like vaccinating cows on arrival. It's not something we can just go buy off the shelf.
No, and only in severely affected herds would you consider using it.
Cool. Well, let's take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll talk about eradicating it once we get it in the herd. And we'll talk about test and removal and different things that we can do to eradicate Johne's. You're watching DocTalk. Thanks for joining us. More after these messages with Dr. Mike Sanderson from Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Earlier in my life, I rode bucking horses in rodeos, and my shoulders took such a beating, and that was probably the reason for having several previous surgeries on both shoulders. About a year ago, I decided that I didn't want to have another surgery, and so I contacted Kansas Regenerative Medicine, took their treatment process. It was relatively pain-free. Now, after 8 months, my shoulders have healed to the point where I think I'm probably 90 to 95% of normal. It takes a couple of months to start to see results with stem cell injections, but at about 3 to 3.5 months, I started to feel better. I started to have less pain and feel real progress. That continued to increase gradually until now at approximately 8 months. And I'm extremely pleased. I've got full range of motion. I can lift weights, I can throw, I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do without a lot of pain previously.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Some call it a come from behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson and Dr. Mike Sanderson, and we are from Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. Dr. Sanderson is a professor here of epidemiology and beef production and has a lot of experience as a beef practitioner, a lot of work in the dairy and beef industries as an epidemiologist and diagnostician and beef production medicine expert, and we're talking about Johne's today. And so what happens once I get it in the herd?
Well, once you get it in the herd, it's actually a long-term plan to try and get rid of it. It's not easy, but it can be done. And the most important things are to prevent transmission to those young calves. So if you're in a dairy, you want to remove calves from the cow as soon as you can after they calve. You don't want to allow suckling or any more contact in that calving environment than you have to for those calves. Get them away and then keep them segregated from the adult cow herd, and that includes any feces from the adult cow herd. We want to make sure that we don't get some feces that contaminates feed. We don't want to feed colostrum that is not from negative cows. So we'd like to test cows, cull positives, and then keep those calves separate.
And I think that the one thing that people need to understand too is that it is a fecal-oral transmission. This is a bug that's in the feces, so if it's, keeping the environment clean, especially in your beef cow herd, keeping the cows and calves in drier areas if possible. I mean, it's common sense for all etiologies of diarrhea, but when you're really focused on Johne's, you got to keep those udders clean. And
absolutely. So that for the beef herd, obviously we can't remove calves from cows, but we do want a very clean environment for calving. Clean udders are really important, and as soon as you can, getting those cows and calves dispersed so that they're not in an environment where the calves have much contact with manure. That's really important and will not only be valuable for Johne's and decreasing transmission, but also in every other enteric disease, calf diarrhea. That's just great for calf diarrhea. So you get paid multiple ways.
Yep, I think people don't understand either that you can track it on your boots.
Absolutely.
You can have, if you go move manure with the loader bucket, and then go grab a bale of hay with the fork, or you know, and just the cross-contamination, understanding keeping feces away from the baby calves
really
as much as we can.
And this bug and most of the other diarrhea bugs of calves can live for a long time in the environment. This MAP bug, 9 to 18 months, depending on what sort of where it is. So you have to maintain that for a long time.
Work with your veterinarian?
Absolutely. So that's going to be the greatest source of some technical information that you need to make sure you get it done right.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us today on the show.
Thanks. Enjoyed it.
Folks, that's Dr. Mike Sanderson from Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. If you want to know more about what Dr. Sanderson and I do here at Kansas State University, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Thanks for joining us today on DocTalk. We appreciate you tuning in and learning more about Johne's disease, how to prevent it, how to eradicate it once it does get on your farm. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. Thanks for watching DocTalk, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by VetGun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
For a few weeks each year, historic Lecompton turns into a living Christmas village as dozens of volunteers, thousands of ornaments, and hundreds of trees come together to transform the territorial Capitol Museum into a Christmas postcard. The spirit of Christmas engulfs the town and all who visit.
Merry Christmas from historic Lecompton.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.